Welcome to the Duck Dive. Today, we're unraveling the world of law.
Yeah, that kind of invisible force that shapes, well, pretty much everything in business.
Exactly. From the biggest corporations right down to, the smallest startup. Our mission here is to pull out the essential takeaways from your source material on business law principles.
Right. Give you a quick but hopefully thorough understanding of how it all works and impacts you.
It's a huge topic. So where do the sources start? How do they break down the different types of law?
Well, the first big distinction they make is between public law and private law.
Okay.
Public law is basically about the state and its relationship with citizens. So think constitutional law or criminal law.
Mm-hmm.
For a business, that might mean regulations they have to follow.
Right, like health and safety rules, maybe?
Exactly. And then you've got private law, which is more about the rights and duties between individuals or between businesses.
So like contracts.
Contracts, property disputes, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But I think the one that comes up a lot, especially for businesses trying to stay on the right side of things, is the difference between criminal and civil law.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial. Criminal law is about wrongs against the whole community, society itself.
So serious stuff, like fraud under the Companies Act.
Precisely. And because it's the state prosecuting, the standard of proof is really high, beyond a reasonable doubt. The aim is punishment, fines, maybe even prison.
Okay. And civil law.
Civil law is where most businesses operate day to day, dealing with disputes. It's about private rights, obligations between parties.
Like that contract dispute you mentioned.
Exactly, or maybe an intellectual property issue or someone claiming negligence. Here, it's one party, the claimant, suing another, the defendant.
And the proof needed is lower.
Much lower, just on the balance of probabilities. Basically, is it more likely than not? And the outcome is usually about compensation damages or maybe an injunction to stop something.
Interesting. And the sources also mention this historical thing, common law versus equity. Sounds a bit old-fashioned, but is it still relevant?
Very much so. It stems from way back when common law was super rigid. If you didn't have the right kind of official form, a writ.
You were stuck?
Pretty much, yeah. No justice. So people started petitioning the king directly, which led to a separate court, the Court of Chancery, developing its own principles, equity.
So it wasn't replacing common law, but adding to it.
Exactly. Complementing it, filling the gaps, aiming for fairness. Equity gave us really important ideas like the trust, which is fundamental in business and finance.
Okay.
And also new remedies like specific performance, forcing someone to actually do what they promised in a contract, not just pay damages, or injunctions, which we just mentioned. These are discretionary, though, not automatic.
Right. So the court decides if it's fair in that specific situation. That shows how the law adapts. How else does it change? How is new law actually made?
Well, change comes from all sorts of places. Society changes, technology. Think about laws for the internet or data protection. That wasn't an issue before.
Sure.
But the main source of new law highlighted is legislation, primarily acts of parliament.
And that's where parliamentary sovereignty comes in.
Yes. The idea that parliament can basically make or unmake any law, and the courts have to apply it, that sets the big rules businesses operate under.
But parliament doesn't rate every single detailed rule, does it?
No, definitely not. That's where delegated legislation comes in. Parliament creates the main act, the framework, but then ministers or local authorities create the detailed regulations. Think specific safety standards for an industry, maybe.
Got it. So acts of parliament, delegated rules, anything else?
Oh, yes. Case law. Judge-made law. When a court, especially a higher one like the Supreme Court, makes a decision on a point of law.
It sets a precedent.
Exactly. That decision, or specifically the legal reasoning behind it, the ratio decidendi, becomes binding on lower courts in similar future cases. So one business dispute ruling can affect many others.
And the sources also mentioned European law.
Yes, historically, European community law had a big impact on the UK, with regulations and directives affecting things like competition law between businesses. That's obviously changed now, but its influence is still seen in some areas.
Okay, so we have all this law, these different types, different sources. Inevitably, businesses run into disputes. How do they typically get resolved?
Well, you have the legal professionals first, solicitors, who are like the general advisors, and barristers, who are the specialists in court advocacy.
Right, but going to court sounds expensive and time-consuming. Are there other ways?
Yes, and the material really emphasizes this. Alternative dispute resolution, or ADR.
ADR, like mediation.
Exactly. Mediation or conciliation, where you have a neutral person helping the parties talk and reach their own settlement. There's also arbitration.
How's that different?
In arbitration, the third party, the arbitrator, actually makes a decision, and it's usually binding, meaning the parties have agreed beforehand to accept it.
So ADR methods, they're generally quicker, more flexible.
Often, yes. And less public than the court system, which, goes from magistrates' courts for smaller things up through the Crown Court, High Court, Court of Appeal, and finally the Supreme Court. For many business disputes, ADR can be a much more practical route.
That makes a lot of sense. Looking back at everything we've covered, this whole legal structure, it's complex, but fascinating how it underpins everything.
It really is. And it's constantly evolving, trying to balance different interests. Which kind of leads to a final thought perhaps for you listening.
Go on.
Now that you have a better sense of how laws are classified, how they're made, how disputes get resolved, does that change how you might look at, say, a news story about new regulations, or how you approach negotiating a contract for your own business? Understanding the framework really does shift your perspective on the risks and opportunities out there.